Hello and welcome to what is the Sweatbox in the month of August in Delhi. Now today I've got something special for you, not just because it's a Ninja, but because this particular bike has given me some really happy moments. So it belongs to a friend of mine and he's been kind enough to lend it to me, not just today and before. So thanks man. So this is the Kawasaki Ninja 1000 SX. So essentially the next generation of the Z1000 SX. Now Kawasaki wanted a fine line between its street fighters and fully faired motorcycles. So if it's got fairing, it's the Ninja. No fairing, it's the Z. So the Z was dropped and replaced with a Ninja. The rest of the name remains the same. The motorcycle, however, receives a list of changes. So some changes had to be made to the engine for it to make the transition to Euro 5, but the power figures are the same as before, so it gets 140 horsepower and 111 Newton meters of maximum torque, which is supposed to kick in at 7500 RPM to 8000 RPM. But here's the thing about how Kawasaki has worked up the torque curve on this machine, because it feels like you have all of it available in every gear at whatever RPM that you're in. You could be in 4th gear during a overtaking maneuver on a highway, and that's fine. You can just open the throttle, not shift down, and it'll manage it just fine. Moreover, it's got a ride-by-wire throttle, which means Kawasaki has been able to give cruise control as standard on this machine. And that should come in handy because going long distances on this motorcycle should be a charm. Goes without saying that cruising speeds of 100 kilometers an hour effortless on this motorcycle. The engine is super smooth, super refined, and it also gets a bidirectional quick shifter, which makes life easier on the highway. However, I think upshifts on the system is as quick as I want it to be, but downshifts not so much. In fact, I have not been able to downshift using the quick shifter on it yet because it does get clunky at times. But the upshifts is a thumbs up. There's also 4 ride modes: rain, road, sport and rider. You can also program them as you like. Now the overall performance, the response from the engine, I would say is friendly and forgiving. This motorcycle feels really powerful, very torquey, very responsive on the throttle, but even so, never too aggressive. Other changes include the seats. Well, the seats you get are comfort seats as standard, which means there's thicker cushion. Now, this thicker cushion means that the seat height has been increased from about 20 mm compared to the Z1000 SX. Well, not really making comparisons to that bike. However, let me take a seat here. So at a seat height of 835 mm, my feet are, well, I'm quite tippy-toey on this bike. So if you're 5.5 feet like me or under, you might have this trouble. If you're taller, you'll be just fine. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning that this bike belongs to a friend of mine, so he's spent a lot of time on the saddle, and he's a tall guy and he's been really comfortable on it, and he's had issues with his back as well, but even so, he's comfortable on this bike and he can just ride hundreds of kilometers without a break. Moreover, the screen that you see up front is adjustable. It's a very simple knob down here that you can use to adjust it. Although, if it were a little bit taller, perhaps that would have helped because the wind blast from shoulder up is quite substantial. So the curb weight is about 238 kilograms. So I was just talking about the seat height and how I'm tippy-toey on it. It's not that bad a situation for me because it's all right to manage this weight. You can always slip to one side to pull it in and out of parking. So the dash is new. It's a TFT screen, very informative and very easy to see no matter what kind of lighting you're under. I'm in bright daylight right now and it's very, very clearly visible. It has two modes on it, one's for touring and one's for sporty kind of riding. The second one would have stuff like lean angle and brake pressure and stuff, but I would prefer the touring one because, well, it matches the personality and what it does of the motorcycle, and it's got more details on it. So let's get to the suspension. It gets 41 mm forks up front and horizontal backlink at the back with a gas charged monoshock. So the suspension has been set up quite plush, but even so it doesn't really dive very much under braking. But it is all adjustable. You can have it the way you want to. Braking comes from 320 mm discs up front with 4-pot calipers and a single one at the rear, which and the braking efficiency, I would say, is only as much as I need from a motorcycle like this. It's not super sport kind, it's not very instant, not too bitey, but then it works for a bike like this. So about the handling on this motorcycle, you'd expect sports bike kind of performance. Well, it looks kind of like a sports bike, but not so much, because of the way you're sitting on it is more long distance oriented. But I did take it out on twisties, and to my surprise, it's actually quite agile. You can drop on your knee, you can flip it from side to side, and it is quick in doing so, but do not expect super sport kind of performance, because it is just not going to deliver on something like that. When I do try to enter a corner and shift my weight, it feels like quite more of a hard work than it would on a sports bike. But then again, this is what a proper sports tourer is. Riding this bike is just such a pleasure. Everything is so smooth. You can flip it from side to side or just relax on a straight road. To sum it all up, is this meant for the performance oriented? No. But then is it really a sports bike? Yes. It's the kind of sports bike where you can be two up and you can do that comfortably. Plus, it's got a ton of features on board. It also has Bluetooth connectivity, which has become quite a sought after feature. And also, among the many reasons why this is such a great touring motorcycle is the fuel range. Well, one full tank gives you more than 300 kilometers, well over 300 kilometers. And that, I think, is a brilliant number for a touring motorcycle. Whenever we're talking about touring motorcycles these days, it's mostly adventure tourings that we think of. And that fact is really subjective to personal choice. Well, if I had to pick a motorcycle on which I could spend a long time on, something that I could do 1,000 kilometers on in one day, I would want a sports touring motorcycle. Probably something like this. So much so that I think this is perhaps one of the best sports touring motorcycles out there. Thank you ever so much for watching. Do consider subscribing. Bye-bye. Take care.